audience. So this is probably the second avatar of mine, if I were to say, in a technical role to come and talk to you all, the same bits audience who have not probably not part of the Pilani campus and not in the same batches. But I'm very happy to be in front of a bits audience again. Thank you all so much for taking your Saturday morning off for this. So when when Lata and I were discussing, the topic was about what can we do and how should this be a panel discussion, fireside chat. So there's so many models in which people talk these days, and it is entirely up to the audience to grab whatever they want and learn more from there. I am a big champion of continuous learning. I think that is the only thing that will keep you relevant to any point in time. You have to be learning that domain or that skill. So when we were talking about, I said there is so much panic. I don't know about the bits audience really. Are you all in the same kind of a panic mode, or is it mixed? I don't know what this particular audience is completely. I'm on a blind date with all of you, if I were to put it that way. I'm not too sure what you are expecting me to talk about, but I'm sure what I want to be talking about. So this is the agenda, right? The first 30 minutes or so, I want to talk about demystifying AI because there's so much clout about it. In case you're not in the hardcore technology field, then you have to understand what is this AI that we are talking about, what is possible with it, and what should not be done with it. So we are going to go about some of those unwrapping that for you all. The second part is going to be the next thing. So does it mean my job is obsolete or irrelevant? Am I going to lose my job? So that has been a concern for every person on this planet Earth who's been working, because AI, unlike many other technologies, is kind of pervading into every possible domain and industry. So it is not like if I were to say, travel, we want ticket booking system, so it is only that part that gets affected. But AI, starting from school education all the way till the grave cemetery, whatever happens in a person's life, there is going to be AI in every possible segment. So it is important to know where can we kind of get prepared to face the tsunami of AI, if I were to call it that. So these are the two parts, and I would love to have the audience engage with me. So as I go ahead with my PPT, and my co-host today, Saurabh, we worked 20, 25 years back when he was a fresher from VIT, if I'm right, Saurabh. And I saw the spark in him, and today he's a great technical architect, and he does a lot of hands-on work with the likes of Amadeus, and he's been one of the best technical minds I've ever come across. So I thought it would be great to have someone who's dabbling with AI on a daily basis. And then there is me, who's been talking about it for almost every other hour of my waking hour. I've been talking about AI. So I thought this will be a good combination. In case we fall short of your expectations in the agenda, you're more than free to just drop off so that we don't disappoint you any further. But if you still think that you can add value to the session with your own insights, more than welcome. So on that note, I'm going to my deck very quickly now. Let us just confirm it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Lata, during introduction, she did mention that my spouse is also from BITS. He chose the marketing path, and I chose the technical path. That has been our career-defining ways of working. So when I said I'm going to do this session, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things about AI, and it's just some bits of AI I'm going to talk. So he immediately kind of related it to the BITS audience, and he coined this term bits of AI. I'm really in love with this term because yes, what I'm going to touch is only the surface level at this point. There is so much more. So aptly called bits of AI. That's all we can do in the next couple of hours. All right, with that, like I said, the introduction is done. I'm going to talk a lot about more impact of AI, and as we go by in the journey today, we're going to first talk about demystifying AI. I'm going to start off from the history and a little bit, go into that, and then give you some real stories from my own life and borrowed stories from others' lives, which I've been witness to, so you all can kind of relate to how AI has kind of transformed, and you will also kind of understand that it's not a big deal at the end of it. If you're able to get that feel, then I think we've done a good job. The second part is going to be, like I said, job markets. How are we going to adjust ourselves? So first, about demystifying this, right? I'm going to start with where did we start with all of this, right? From time unknown. I think human beings are the most lazy lot, right? They've always wanted to have easier living. So, right from Stone Age, right, we've always seen ways of doing things easily. How can I do something which is making my effort lesser? How can I do something so that I don't have to spend all my time on a particular task and I can do several other things? How can I make this more productive? So these have been the way human beings are wired right from the beginning. I'm talking about our Stone Age itself. So the tools that came in the very first stage was even the rubbing of stones, and then from there to inventing fire, and then going on to the wheel is a big invention. So we've talked about all of that, right? So we all know all of this in one sense. But what happened really is none of this really took away the charm of human beings' intellect. That was still going on, and we kept inventing and reinventing. So we started with all of this. And as we moved into the industrialization phase and the revolution around that, we came up with how can we automate many of these things that we are doing in the industrialization phase, right? So, what all can be automated? And when we talked about automation, we talked about computing and data, and how do we kind of make use of the computing power to make things life easier is the motto all the time. How can you make this faster? How can you make this easier? Then came the RPA wave a little bit from the automation. We took a leaf and we said, can we do this more in a robotic way? Can we just automate all the process? And I don't want to be intervening so often. So can I make this easier? From there, we took a leap and then started the AI journey, then the machine learning, deep learning. So each of this has been there for a while, at least a few decades, if not more. We've been talking about all of this, but what happened suddenly is the past 2, 3 years from 22 onwards, there is a huge furor about what all can be done. I mean, AI has given you a feel that it can start talking to you, it can converse to you, and that probably is the tipping point. And from there, things have really started it's exploded, so to say. And hence, from the time unknown to now, we are only looking at how can life be made easier. And the more we want to make it easier, the more complex the system behind that gets. That's something we don't see. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then we have the AI classifications, weak, strong, and super AI. I want you to know that we are still dabbling around with weak AI, and some R&D is going on in the strong AI part of it. Super AI is still a few decades later, is what I would like to imagine. But we are right now in the weak AI phase. Any questions at this point?
GD Shankar here.
Yes.
GD, would be great if you could touch upon what is the classifications in AI, like agentic. First there was AI, then there was generative AI, there was agentic AI. So some thought or light on that would be beneficial.
Sure. As we go by, we will talk about that.
Okay.
Saurabh, when we are talking about machine learning and deep learning, please make sure that we touch upon agentic AI and autonomous agents and all of that. Yeah, that will be the right place to take it. Shankar, sure, we'll come back to you. Any other
Yeah, thank you.
questions or thoughts? Okay. So, we talked about the three types of AI. We said weak AI, narrow. What is weak AI? Is it can do even now? I mean, the noise about AI is so much. Even when we are still in the weak AI phase, if I were to call it the phase, right? The very first phase is it can do only specific tasks. As a case in point, right? I was trying to generate some documents, some images with some of these tools, the typical ones we all use these days for generation. And I realized that one tool can't generate images, another tool cannot generate documents, a third tool cannot generate video. So there are specific tools for specific tasks, and then there are also tools which will cost you something if you want to really go and do everything under the sky. So still, it is only talking about specific tasks. We don't know how many of us have realized that Siri itself, right? Siri itself is AI. Your Alexa is AI. There is a lot of AI embedded in that. How much do we realize? That is another question. It could be limited, but it is still AI. Okay, this is what we have today, but what will happen in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe slightly lesser also, is the strong AI, where the systems start thinking like humans. In fact, there is a recent example of AI going rogue. It would not listen to what the instructions were. It would continue to do what it wants to do. That's a very scary thing, and that is why it is important to have your regulations, your social responsibility and ethics and all of that come around that, because AI can really turn rogue if it becomes human intelligence level. We are still seeing some traces of that starting to happen. I'm sure we will get that under control. So this is still theoretical, is what they're saying, but there are instances of some of these going rogue. But there is a long way to go before it really becomes independent. Super AI is beyond it's more like science fiction. So I have a very strong intuition that with quantum computing on one side growing at some pace, so much research going on there, with the AI coming in, I think that combination would be killer combination, and that is what will probably show you a science fiction in our lifetimes. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, but that is going to be a killer combination. In this session, we will talk more about weak AI and a little bit about strong AI. I don't want to go to the third topic yet, because it is far beyond the scope of this session itself. Okay, now this is story time completely, right? So I just passed out of bits. I came in, I joined a company here, started learning. I was not a computer science student to start with, so I had to learn my basics. I had to learn what is data, everything from scratch. How do you write code? I was a terrible C++ programmer. I started off as a terrible C programmer, but I learned it the right way, thankfully, to a great mentor that I got. Then, when I started writing good C code, they said, no, you forget C, you learn C++. So it was very difficult to unlearn and learn at that point in time. And I was still a very young mind, hardly of 20 to 23 years at that point in time. And then I started learning databases. And that is when it was a real big, I would say, an enlightenment moment for me, because I never thought that data could do so much. So I got a natural interest towards how data is stored, how is it retrieved. CRUD was a fascinating concept for me. And then we talked about writing scripts to go and create a table, to create records in the table. I was completely immersed with the metadata creation, model creation, ER diagrams. And so when I was doing all of this, right, my mother worked as an officer in one of the export companies here in Chennai. So when I was about 2, 3 years of experience, and I was just kind of getting so so much in awe I was about data and the way things work. She came up to me one day and she said, I mean, what are they talking about? I mean, data entry is one job that has come now. I used to maintain all my bank records on files, but I don't know how this whole thing, what are they entering? Where does it get stored? I'm not able to understand any of this. Will you be able to help me understand? I thought whenever we teach, we learn more. Even this session, I agreed to do, because in the process of putting up this material together, I had to do a lot of research, and topics which I had not gone into, I had to go into. So it was good. So right from a very young age, I've always loved to teach, because I thought I learn more when I teach. And then I sat down with my mother and I explained it to her. She is not a mother who's just in the kitchen. Even for those times, she was way ahead of her clan. She was already working and she's asking me questions. So I had to give her answers which she will relate to. So then I told her how she's very good at filing and indexing and organizing and all of that. Obviously, she's dealing with banks and the export department. So I was asking her how she went about each of these. When she explained this to me, how she does a filing system, I said, let's take the same analogy and I will tell you how this is done on the computer. So I started off with the basic, your Windows the Explorer thing, which was in those days just the file system or whatever that was called. I don't even remember. So I told her, this is how you create a directory. This is like your box file, and then you go and create your folder. So all the documents that you want to put, letter of intents or whatever you want to put in a particular file and folder in your cabinet, the same thing you will do here virtually. So it is all zeros and ones at the back end, but this is how it will get configured for you to understand and sort things out. I think that kind of made her realize that it is not very complex. So the first thing that I kind of got successful about was she was very alarmed, and I kind of brought that down for her. I said, this is exactly what you've been doing, but it's all done here with the help of these tools, and you just have to go create your folders, and then you go put your files, you make meaningful folder names. So meaningful folder names is basically configuration management thumb rule, right? You start off from there. You make meaningful file names, you make meaningful folder names, and then it is easy for you to search and go and get what you want. So when I taught her all of this, she was completely in awe about how this whole thing can be done so easily, so fast. I mean, those days it was still 386 and 486, but she was still very surprised about how this whole thing could cut down her time and get her to do better things. So this
So
whole
GD,
thing taught me. No, go ahead.
GD, sorry, Shankar here again.
Yeah.
See, I work in one of the IT organizations, GD, like Infosys, and
Mm.
I know it's a related question, but I'm asking it. There are a lot of low code, no code platform trainings coming up, Python trainings coming up. Is Python a prerequisite for AI?
Depending on what you want to do in AI, okay?
Okay.
Again, I'm going to park this question because you are kind of slightly getting ahead of the program. Maybe my stories are still boring for you, Shankar. I'm keeping the others in mind, and I'm going to go with the pace. Is
Okay.
Python a prerequisite if you're going to be developing in AI, if you're going to be creating AI systems, if you're going to be writing intelligent AI agents and stuff? Python is a prerequisite. But if you're just going to be a consumer, I will talk about consumer of AI and creator of UI in a bit, Shankar. That can answer this question.
Yeah, yeah, that'll help.
Yep. So shall I go ahead?
Yeah, GD.
Okay. So this whole teaching the mother the data and the way files and folders are organized was a big revelation for me too. That if you have to teach someone in a way that they will understand and appreciate, you have to be an expert. You have to know the subject too well, and you must be able to bring analogies of day-to-day life for them from their own ways of working, so that you're able to kind of connect them to what is new in the industry, what technology is new. So with that, one more thing that I got to understand was the power of data. So my focus on data grew from that point onwards. Now, once I know data is everything and I need to start focusing on databases more, I mean, you take a look at what's happening around us today. The same concept, the same topic data, right? From then to now. If you look at the kind of data that gets collected around us, right? You order a coffee in Saravana Bhavan. Now Saravana Bhavan doesn't exist. So you order a coffee anywhere, right? They have billing systems, they have customer systems. So your data does go in there. Either your phone number goes in there. In some form or shape, your data is stored as to, especially in larger coffee chains like Starbucks. So and so has a preference towards a coffee, or when you go order something on Swiggy, the preference is stored already, and that is data, right? Your GPS navigation is all about data. Your likes and dislikes and hates and your smileys and loves on social media is all data. Your preferences are going in there. And if you're ordering something online, that's data for people. So all the ads that you get, I think all of this is pretty basic and simple for many of you here. You've been using this, but what you may not really know is how this data is used at the back end to kind of sort you into a bucket, to say that this is what this person will like. Your preferences are all kind of lined up, and the Google ads that you get to see, or your Facebook ads, and all come based on what interest you have shown in the past. This is something that's happening very seamlessly, which we may not even realize, but data plays a very big role. So much so that when people say things happen automatically, this is going to be my next line of thought. Nothing happens automatically. The data that you give, what you don't know that you're giving that data, you fed it in, but what happens in the background is there is so much of processing that happens. There is a team that has been collecting requirements. If you all know the SDLC, software development life cycle, there is requirements gathering, there's design, there's code, there's testing, and then there's implementation. I put RPA there just so that you know that at some points in time we bring in RPA for more efficient processing. So the SDLC itself, right? Now, with the data that you give, the whole chain of, so should this go in as a requirement? Which part of design should this affect? Which code should it go and edit? And what testing will happen? This whole thing is happening in the background. There's nothing automatic at all. There is a lot of feed that we give in the form of data that gets taken care by the technical team in the background. So I just want you to know, when someone says I press the a latte or whatever cappuccino I need, and it automatically gives, there is a sensor behind it. There is some code that is written there. There is something that is thinking for you from behind the counter. So every small thing that happens automatically has some engineering behind it, which may not be evident to the human eyes. That is something that I want you all to know. And that is true in the case of AI like never before. But how much of autonomy have we given it is the question that makes it weak or strong. We will talk about that. Right? I want to pause here with robotic process automation a little bit. Like I said in the previous one, some of these, right? We identify the tasks that repeat, and then we again design. There is a human intervention there. Then we go configure bots. That also is human intervention. Now we are seeing, can AI do that part? And then we test and deploy. The eval part of it comes in here. And then you continuously keep improving it by monitoring and optimizing. Now, this was what RPA was capable of. Now, why is AI different? Because for each of this, it is trying to think and it is trying to act on its own wherever we are configuring it that way. So this RPA is probably one step before, and do not get carried away when people say it is AI. Even the simplest of automation is now ill-termed as AI. If the audience here can make the difference out between what is automation and what is AI, that is a great achievement, because it gets extremely crowded in this market. The other big point is we need to ask questions. Do we need AI at all? That's a question which nobody asks these days. They're just blindly jumping into it and saying, yeah, we will do AI. I mean, give me a break. It doesn't have to be AI. It could be a simple automation, or it could still be done manually if it means that is faster. But nobody is thinking. People have outsourced the thinking faculties to AIs or to people who know AIs, and they are just saying, get it done fast. I think we need to kind of take a step back, take a deep breath, and then see. I mean, does this really make sense? How many of us ask those questions? Does this really make sense? So let's not be in a rush, is the message here. RPS could do a better job than AI, where in some places we need to know when to do RPA, when to do pure automation, when to do AI, when to do it manually. So that is another big point that I wanted to make. Now, at this point, right, I talked about giving it to AI and making it think on behalf of us. Now, that is where a little bit of machine learning comes in. Now, at this point, I would request Saurabh to take over from here, because he has probably done a little bit of this by himself. So it would make more sense when he talks out of experience how this is done. We know traditional programming, all of us know this, but in machine learning, things are slightly different. And Saurabh, may I request you to take it over from here, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, Judy. And thank you so much, Shankar, for changing the lines which I have prepared earlier. So I will try to answer you what you have asked the question. Right. So back in 2004, I started my career under GD. And, that point of the time, there was a lot. One first assignment as for us was working on to the SharePoint portal server. And 2003, the first version of the SharePoint portal server was introduced, and I had to research, I had to find the things, and develop some kind of the web apps into the SharePoint port server. So, what I have done it like whatever the resources were available from the senior, and you will correlate once you come out from the college, you are fresher and you feel shy to interact with your senior. But having said that, I was little odd man out whenever there was a work needed. I used to approach my senior into the pretty, strong form that this is the technical help I need. So this point is what happens. That point of the time, I got a lot more information. But since SharePoint portal server itself was new and the first edition was available, not much information was available neither with my senior nor with nor into the internet as well. So the pump, what you know, I have done it. What I mean, did a lot of research, figuring out the things here and there, kind of the things, and after that's what happened. I have developed the one application into the SharePoint portal server. That being said, 3 days of the hard working and deploying of the solution, right? We have developed, and when it came into the production and the people were started testing it, right? It went down. But after I would say, well, like for 3 days hard working, I just went back and was just taking the rest and got receive a lot more call that this is not working at all. I just thought like, why not the people can restart the computer, or why not just tweak the some small parameters here and there, right? But that was not meant to. The system failed badly, and I was completely dejected that so much of the hard work has gone just by the small thing that the machine could not correlate, and they could not correct the one small mistake of checking of the null pointer exception, right? So I was just taking it back. That's that's a very small thing, and why not the computer or the machine could have corrected this, right? So that was my thought process into the 2004 time frame. That's why not it have the machine can do it. So if that was my thought process, was not anyone else has thought about it, like that's the machine could learn? Yes, there was a back history in 1950 when the John McAfee was a scientist. He has coined the word kind of the artificial intelligence, right? John McAfee was a scientist who thought like we can do a lot more thing onto the AI, and he has only coined the word. And there was a lot of things after the John McAfee has been done, something like the shaky robot came, and then the Elisa kind of the things came, which have started developing the the application based onto the human intelligence, which is like neural network, right? But most of the time from the 1950 to the 2012, the one of the consideration has been taken as a symbolic AI, right? So if we talk about the human brain, there was a two particular areas, right? One is the symbolic AI, and the second one is the connectionism AI, right? So in a symbolic AI, what we do is, right, it the how does the human brain works, right? They works into the two way. One is like correlating each and everything based onto the images, right? And those images, if I talk about, say something like the Chennai, what comes into the mind, right? It comes the beaches, right? What is the direction? How do we go around the beaches? Or if I talk about India, what comes into the mind, right? The apple, the color of the mic, apple, what is the origin of the apples, right? So those things comes into the mind, and this everything is correlated with a word called as a symbolic AI, right? Because everything is a symbol driven, right? So 1950 to the 2012, most of the work has been done into this particular era and exploring how can we give the some kind of the thought process or intelligence to the machines, right? Till 2012. But 2012, there was a guy called it the Alex, right? Alex has found something called the AlexNet, which is explored the second dimension of the human brain, which is like the connection is made. How does it works? It like what happens the human whenever they are responding to any kind of the query, they the question and answering session goes as like the into the multiple layer before the final output comes out from the human brain, right? So far so good. The Alex has what he has done, he tried to do to simulate this dimension of the human brain completely. And what he has done it, he has just formed the 7 layers where you know the answer of the one layer is going to be the input or the question for the another layer, and when the answer comes out of the 7 layer, it is going to be the mode transform one. So in 2012, when the AlexNet has used this kind of the architecture where we call it as a connection as AI, where the answer has been come from the one layer to the another layer, right? That was a major discovery, and that was the foundation of why we all are talking over here, right? Getting into the the connection is AI, which Alex has discovered. After that, a lot of innovations has happened here and there, and then finally into the 2017 there is something called the transformer architecture came from the Google, which is like based onto the paper called as attention all you need, right? In that what the Google has done it like the transformer architecture, they have just transformed the way the natural processing or the natural language is understood. So like what we have been talking about well before the 2017, the transformer architecture, it is always the one statement in a if we give the one paragraph to the machine, they always used to take the one word at a time and try to translate the answer. But into the 2017, after the transformer architecture, you give the entire the paragraph, and we are just trying to take the meaning out of that paragraph, right? That was a major discovery into the transformer architecture. And afterwards there is no look back. Major companies which we have been talking about, the Google, Facebook, or for that matter OpenAI, right? They have developed their own kind of the architecture, which we call it as a BERT architecture, T5 architecture, and many more, right? And that was, the birth of the deep learning which we have been talking about, right? Because AlexNet has used only the 5 layers, but after that, there are the multiple vendors came into the market, OpenAI, Facebook, and everyone else. They started adding the number of layer one after the another, right? And as many numbers of the layers has been added into the architecture, the answer which used to come, it is like the much more refined answer for it, right? And that's how the birth of the deep learning came into the market, right? Now, going back to the question which Shankar has asked, the two things which is like, one is like the agentic AI, what it is, right? Now, till the chat gpt, which is the one of the client for the the different models which has been developed by the OpenAI, right? This was majorly of doing the things. I mean, saying the things, and they just give the answer. So basically, what happened in a chat GPT, you just communicate with them, but they were not doing any sort of the things, right? Now, if I say to the chat GPT, like, given a the best places to visit during this particular season, they will be able to tell you like what are the places which you can visit. But having said that, if you ask them, can you book some kind of the tickets from here to here, or the hotels from here to this places, right? That was not possible with the help of the chat gpt. And that's where like it has gone forward, and the birth of the agents came into the market, where the agents were not only able to give you the information, but at the same time they were also able to do the certain kind of the things, right? And from the agent, agent was also proactive in the nature, and that's where the birth of the agentic AI came into the picture, where the agentic AI is more of the autonomous agent which can do the things for you, right? You ask for, so basically what happens if you have some kind of the personal assistant and you give the information to them, and the agentic AI will be help will be able to help you to do the things, right? So that's about the things which we have been going on. But having said that, there's a lot more innovation is happening in this particular field, whereas the MCP is coming into the market and many more innovation is happening. But the bottom line is still remain the same, is we are just trying to replicate what are the intelligence the human brain is coming. Human, we are just going to replicate what the human brain can do it, right? So that's where we are going forward, right? So the next slide, I think, Didi, like we have been talking about the future. I just hand over to you. You can talk about like what are the
Yeah.
future we are looking at,
Yeah,
or
before we go to that, I want to add on a couple of things that you've said. And I think Jaya has asked something about certifications. Take a look at it in the chat. In the meantime, see, you all must be wondering why we never use this term that is more, one term that is so much used. I've not even talked about it ever since the past 40 minutes. I haven't talked about it. Any guesses what term that is? You're talking AI, not talking that term. Any guesses?
Generative AI.
No, no. I said data, but I didn't talk about this term. It's LLMs, right? Everybody talks LLMs, but I intentionally left out that word in the entire presentation. But because you've asked about agents, I think it is important that I talk from the end to end. So the LLMs are basically your data sets. I'm trying to oversimplify it a little bit so that you're able to relate to it, and then we can go to the depth. Um, So LLMs are all your data models. Okay, they can be trained. They can be, you can supervise their learning. It can be unsupervised. All of that. We've been hearing these terms so often. Your difference between ChatGPT, he nicely said that, right, Saurabh? You ask a question, it answers a question, and then with relevance to that, you can keep building. But the moment that is possible, what do we want to do next? So much data it has already. The LLM that it is relating to, it's coming up with a lot of answers. It's looking at everything and it's able to give you these answers. But human mind wants to take it to the next level. And the next level is, if you can answer this so much, why don't you go and book my, train tickets or flight tickets? Why don't you go reserve this? So that is the logical next step. So if you're able to say there's a scenic place and there's a right season to visit, why don't you help me book my tickets? So that's where your next level of agentic AIs and that comes. And then the question of autonomous agents is, it then goes checks your calendar. When are you available? If your calendar is up to date, that is, if you're able to give access to the calendar, it will check when are you available, when are the flights available, what is the season, and then it does all this matching, and then it comes back to you and says these are the dates, this is what is an ideal pricing. All of this can happen with the help of AI and autonomous agents. I hope this agentic AI and autonomous agents, I hope this clarifies a lot of what we've been thinking. Shankar, doesn't throw any light on your question on agentic AI.
Yeah, you did, GD. Thank you. I could
So
understand
now,
quite a bit.
sure. So now we'll go to the next part of it. I said we are still in the weak AI. So think about it, right? Even in the weak AI phase, I go and turn on
Can I
Netflix.
can I interrupt here? Just a question
Please
here.
do. Please. Yeah.
Isn't agentic AI would give way to this the cybersecurity loopholes? It will, don't you think data and privacy compromises may happen in the course
So
of
that
this?
is,
Like if you're giving access
Rajendra,
to my calendar, my personal availability, and other artifacts. So doesn't it give rise to security impact?
yes. So there is a lot of study and a lot of work that has gone into how to keep your data private and secure. Even when you're building the agents, even when you're trying to give the control to the agents to do things, we need to make sure that we are completely protected by whatever fences we need to lay around ourselves. So there is a lot of study and there is a lot of cyber security related AI work that is also going on, Rajendra. So it kind of is very evident that I can't give away all my data. So how do I start drawing the guardrails? In fact, all the deep fakes and all of that is because of somewhere someone has left their voice. I mean, these days, where do we care? How do we know what is happening, right? It's so widespread. So people can take the voice, they can take the facial gestures and make a video and say, yeah, this is what someone said. So to that extent, security is a threat, and they're trying to see how we can protect our right to the data. Saurabh, is there anything specific on security you want to add from a practitioner point of view?
See, when we have been talking about the security, it all depends on what the flavor are we talking about, right? Now, the few of the information, the claim which we submit, right, when you are adding the information into the Google and those things, right? And that's where you just sign the terms and the agreement that you are allowing this data to be shared with the other vendors or something, right? So we are, if we have been talking about as an end user, only those information has been used which is available into the public forum. The second thing we have been talking about, like the private informations, something like specific, only specific to you or to your organization, right? That's where the different kind of the modalities comes into the picture, and you have to tweak your models just to give the flavor about it. And having said that, when it comes to building any kind of the software, all those old age practices like the SSL and the SSL termination, whitelisting, those all the concept are still valid, and hold good whenever even we are designing the agentic based solutions as well.
Yeah. So, in fact, there is a lot of deliberation that happens when I want to start strategizing, right? If I want to strategize, how will my AI journey look like for my organization? One of the most important things that I'm talking about the organization, I'm not talking about individuals yet. So, there is a difference, right? So, for the organization, when I'm trying to build up my digital strategy, AI strategy, I need to make sure what should be my infrastructure, where should my server be, is it on prime, is it on cloud, private cloud, public cloud, all of that needs to be deliberated. And I'll also have to make sure that if I am taking an LLM, am I going to inference in the LLM, or am I going to take a complete version download of that and do it for my own, ring fence it to my, but there are plus and minus in each of these strategies and models. I think it is a decision that you need to think through rather than just jumping the gun and saying, I also have gone AI. So that you protect your data. On the personal side, like Saurabh rightly said, it does ask you questions. Are you okay to take this data forward? It's entirely up to you how you configure it, how you want to be participating in the AI journey. Sometimes I think my inputs are valid. Sometimes I think it is irrelevant. I don't have to give my data. So it is still in your hands right now. We need to exercise more caution. That is the message. Rajendra, did you get your response?
Yeah, I did get that. And in fact, you see, what's also happening is from the side, because I'm from the cybersecurity domain, so I am only wanting to add here is that it opens up a new frontier, right, even in cybersecurity domain, that not only that you're sharing your data and privacy, it's going down a level deeper, which is the content of the data itself is also getting shared, which is the threat. So, like you said about, where should, from an enterprise perspective, where should your servers be and where it is hosted, whether it's on-prem or hybrid model. That's not the question now. Question is the content. What is the content that you want to share? What is the content which will go into building up those models? Because that content will reside there for a longer period of time. It will become part of the machine learning. It will become part of your, all the correlation rules, engines that you are going to write or going to use for your decision making or expert systems. So that's the key message from a cybersecurity perspective is how much, data can be loosened for sharing for AI journey.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. So sorry, Saurabh, you want to say something?
That's perfectly. Yeah. So I just wanted to add on to what Rajendra has spoke about cybersecurity. So this is the one of the domain I've invested a lot of time. The reason for being like this when I designed the solution for the banking thing, right? Now what happens? Let me give you a little more insight how exactly this model and the LLM works, right? All these privately available models that we have been talking about, the OpenAI, LLM, or all these models, which has been exposed by either OpenAI or the Google or anyone, right? They have been trained with the publicly available data, right? Now there's the aspects comes on how do we provide the private informations, right? That's where your application development came into the picture, where you started fine tuning your model and started giving the information which the private information which you wanted to train your model on. Now the questions comes over here, how exactly what information do you want it to supply to your model so that that learning can be preserved over there, right? And that's where the lot of things like in a fine tuning itself, there's a lot of dimensions exist by which you say it's only the read only LLM instance you wanted to take it. That's already onto the place, right? Second thing which we have been talking about, right, there's as well the one emerging field is coming, which is a decentralized AI, which has been into the progress, where the MIT is doing the research. What they're trying to do is, right, the learning from you will be shared only at the cost if you wanted the model to go on, okay? And if you don't want to, this learning will not go, and at the same time you will also be being paid off for the learning which has been used by anyone else, right? So that particular model research is still going on, but yes, the cyber security, this has been a lot of research is still going on into that particular field.
Yeah. And when I said cloud on-prem, Rajendra, my intention was more to when you drop your digital strategy, you have to think through these as well, because if you decide to have something more in your premises, right, in your own control, the server capacity, the performance, the compute power, all of that needs to be thought through, depending on how large your enterprise is and how much you want to keep it on prime. So that was from a digital strategy point of view, Rajendra.
I fully agree with you. I am not denying that. I was only saying, besides that, there is more which needs to be, discussed rather than this, because you have standard answers to, infrastructure related questions for this.
There's a lot to be thought through, and in fact, what is recommended is you don't do a big bang. Like in some companies I've been part of, right? They do a big bang ERP, S4 HANA, or whatever is the next big ERP solution that they want to implement. They do it across the 25,000 to lakh of people, 2 lakh people. Do the complete implementation as a big bang at one go. As far as AI is concerned, we are discouraged to do anything like that. It has to be for a small pocket, one function, one thing at a time, or with fully guarded and fielded data, so that we know the mistakes that we are making, and then to replicate it and take it across the organization will make more sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. I fully agree with you. Because digital
Yeah.
transformation by itself is a different domain. And whether
Yeah.
you want to do big bang or a slow this thing, but at least AI should be taken up, at a slow pace, not as a big bang. Thank you.
Yeah.
GD and
And
Saurabh, Vasant here. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
we
just
can
just
hear
want
you.
to
Go.
add a couple of points there, right? Being a practitioner in the engineering in the banking space, right? So what some of the banks have been doing is they have elaborate AI governance teams, right? And there are model risk management teams where some of the models that we're creating are being vetted by these teams. We've been asked a lot of questions, right? There are data classification standards. What is personal information? Are you sharing the SSN number or private information, right? So these models are also categorized based on what kind of information data we handle, right? So there's a lot of oversight in this direction. And only when we have to go through architecture review boards to get approvals and so on. So there is a fair level of oversight on these AI use cases that institutions are working on as well, if that will help. Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, just one
some
final.
industries like banking. Yeah, Saurabh, go ahead. I don't want to keep cutting you. Please go ahead.
Sure. No, GD, that's perfectly fine. So just wanted to add the final thing onto, the when we have been talking about any kind of the digital transformation, right? This is a very clear-cut guidelines that you have to categorize all your application into the either of these two segments. So what we say is there are the two kinds of the application in any organization exist. One is a system of records and the second one is a system of engagement. So the system of records are the application which contain the core data of your organization. So if I take the banking example, right, the mainframe is the core data of you, right, core data of the entire bank. So if we just mess up with the the master data of your customer, then the bank is not going to function. So as when we have been talking about the MIDS, right, MIDS core data is where the GDS information, right, the global distribution system exists. And if we are going to mess up with that particular data, then entire GDS platform is going to down. Now the second dimension of where the categorization, the system of engagement, which is basically the application which just try to increase the productivity of the developers or the the product engagement of the users who are using those kind of the application, right? Those all the applications are recommended and the better use case for the current AI landscape, because we are still into the weak AI, right? This technology is still not matured, right? And that's reason we say if we wanted to play around with any kind of the application, that should be always considered as which fall into the category of the system of engagement. That's also really the
I just wanted to say that banking is one industry which has gone way ahead of the rest of the industries in terms of implementing, lot of digitization to start with, and then now even in the AI gamut, with all the guardrails and all of that. I think if we were to take a leaf out of some industry to implement elsewhere, banking could lead by example. So, Vasant, that is the level of guardrails that has been set because it's all about money, right?
I completely agree. Yeah. And the level of client information involved as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So, moving on, we've talked about some of this already, but I still want to emphasize that even without your knowledge, we are giving your preferences in Netflix. Do you have a choice? right? You want to go watch something, obviously, whether it's horror, thriller, whatever, romance, comedy, drama, you've given that choice. So they know that if this is the user in the same family, it can categorize. And I think Netflix is one of the best AI implementations. So that means across the globe, it can really tell you what genre of people from which part of the globe watch what kind of movies. So that's a big thing, right? And so on and so Google, again, Google has all the data in the world that they need. They've been silently collecting it, and we've been contributing to it. Where I go from, I mean, where I go on what days of the week and from where to where at what time, all the data is with Google. And I've given it willingly because I had to use the maps. And like that, your emails, your Exchange server knows what kind of emails you want to filter, what you want to focus on. So all of this, right, is already been there in the background. We did not realize that this data can come in so handy for them to structure so much of AI around that. Yeah. Then, so what's next? So, like I said, when we started, human beings want to make life easier. Now it's going to become so easier and so complex both at the same time, depending on which side of the fence you are in. We are going to have a lot of more capabilities explored. In fact, one area where I'm really excited about AI is healthcare. I can talk about it when we get to the industries in a bit. And then the daily integration, like I said, your Alexa and your all your IoT, and I mean AI is kind of limited, but IoT is already kind of there with us for a few decades, if not more, for a few years, if not decades. Then you have a lot of opportunities, and that's another topic we're going to talk about before we close for this day. So what is the future hold now from this point, right? I'm going to go a little bit back and forth on how human beings have adapted and lived and excelled in some of the things that is transformed in the past, how scared we were, but what did we do about it and where did we land. So this AI also, I don't think we need to fear, because innately human beings know how to excel and keep going forward. So if I were to call this the tractor revolution, workforce transformation, right? Take of those times when agriculture was the main thing for breadwinning, right? Then came the industrialization, and then there came the services industry. So now you see that there is more services and there is lesser of the earlier ones, and even in the lesser ones, there's more technology that comes into picture. So throughout this, right, we have seen that the transition has been very painful, like it is right now, but we have always landed with greater prosperity. So I want that positive thinking as we move forward. So I was talking about how I taught my mother computers, and before the computer generation, everything was manual. Why go before the computer generation, right? When I started my career, there was the ISO process, and CMM was just taking shape and all of that. So we had to kind of do the estimation. We had to keep everything on physical papers. We used to write that down, and we also used to write our test cases, write our requirements, everything we used to do it handwritten. And maybe there were some forms and templates that were given to us, but we still had to write it, and then we had to get it reviewed and approved. And from there to now, you Jiras of the world does magic, right? You don't have to do anything, you don't have to do any writing at all. And now all your fireflies and all the notes takers, they do the job of taking even the minutes away from you. So from that point, right, where we wrote everything, to the point where digital transition happened, and then how did we adapt to the new ways of working. So when everything got done by the digital transformation, we started having customer service as a I mean, that became such a big, the BPOs, India was booming with that, right, at some point. And then there were level 1, level 2, level 3 customer service. I mean, human beings are so I mean, I'm completely in awe at how they can keep inventing new things, discovering their own roles and how they will live and how they'll take us to greater prosperity. I mean, all of us. So the adaptation has been so phenomenal. And then now, with the now software development is, it is not a new industry anymore. In fact, it is one industry which keeps reinventing itself more often than any other industry, if I were to call it that way. It has
So if I
created
may,
more jobs. Yeah.
if I may
Sorry.
interrupt you here, so I think you've completed your this thing. My only thing here is that your caption, when computers replaced humans, I want to say that probably computers never replaced humans. they augmented humans.
Right. So it is always the belief that we are getting replaced, right? You take the
Yes,
current.
so
So it is
I
cynical way of
understand.
saying that.
Absolutely. So I recall in 1986 or something when in India the banking the computers were getting introduced. There was a lot of resistance. There was a lot of hue and cry and unions opposed and because I myself was involved in in one of those machines called ALPS, automated ledger posting systems. But
Mhm.
today, if you see, the gradually no jobs were taken away. It's just that computers have gradually started augmenting the human, and that's exactly what is happening. If you look at it from that perspective, and if we keep our thought process, mental direction also that AI should augment humans and rather than as the, there's a lot of talks going on that the jobs will get replaced, the jobs will get redundant. I don't think that's not the correct way to look at it practically. There is
You're right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Rajendra, you're 100% correct there. Nothing has got replaced. Humans are not replaced ever. But I wanted to keep that way because now people think that, I mean, now you've started, you did notice that, right? AI is not going to replace. Computers never replaced. It's all augmented. But to what extent we are going to use it is the question right now. In the previous generation, when computers became the thing, we all wanted more of it, right? Because we are seeing that it really take, for example, our digital payments. It has made our lives so easy. It's become a case study around the world, right? So there are areas where it has really transformed and helped us quite a bit, and there are areas where it has really been painful to learn and implement. There are areas where it has made us a better human, do better things rather than the same mundane stuff. So to that extent, there has been a replacement, but it has really not taken away anything from the humans, so to say. Accept.
Just
absolutely.
to add, to that,
If
right? Rajendra's point, low skill jobs, right, which are maybe repetitive or where AI agents can fill in, right? So those might get replaced in the near future, right? So
Right.
from an adaptation standpoint, we need to learn to reskill ourselves to work with these agents, either develop them or manage them or fix them, right, in order to go forward, right? So the
absolutely,
level of
Saurabh,
disruption in the
absolutely.
80s and 90s is very different from what is happening today, right? Last week, I'm working on two AI use cases which are killing two FTEs out there, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
So,
so
so,
we
so
can't we can't be in denial, right? So there is a massive level of disruption. So it's about how we position ourselves over the next 10, 15 years, because some of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, or whatever it is, and we have to work for some more time. So how we can reposition ourselves to collaborate with AI agents, models, or whatever you call it, in order to stay relevant. Thanks.
right.
So what is going to,
So,
yeah.
so jobs will not be replaced. It's only that the roles will be redefined or restructured. And that's what, if you really look at it, if you go back to your previous slide, you are also depicting the same thing. The industrial revolution. This is human tendency. This is the human demand that the mankind wants their effort to be augmented by various supportive, like agriculture revolution, the introduction of mechanized and various devices, industries, and today's computers, and now the computers are just not just computers. Now they've taken newer shapes and sizes. Now instead of a mainframe which used to take a huge building, now everything is in your mobile, right? So that's a human tendency to modernize and industrialize and get the help of devices, and that also gives to a very interesting topic, which is man machine interaction. That's where
Right.
I also bring out another line, which is cyber psychology, how the psychology plays a very vital role in this whole evolution of man machine interaction and how things are evolving. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rajendra. Very, very good discussion, right? And Vasan,
And, and
nobody
GD
is
and
going to.
Saurabh, sorry to,
Mm.
I mean, I know you might have this on your agenda, but if you can talk about what kind of roles will open up, right, with the changes that are coming, where we can move towards, right, especially people who are experienced and maybe technical, maybe non-technical in
Yeah.
various industries, right? So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that is there in the flow itself. But I just wanted to re-emphasize what Rajendra said, and to your point also, Vasu. Yes, there will be replacements, but I mean, are we overreacting by these replacements? Is one question. Like I said, we need to pause and think: Is this really scalable? Is this really going to work? Have we done our diligence? Before we have decided to go AI and remove people, because still there is a little bit of ambiguity when it comes to agents taking up or AI taking up the job. Are we really very sure? That is one question. The second thing is people who are going away, right? Like take the example of the earlier, I did talk about how definitely when this happened, right, clerical jobs were eliminated,
Right.
correct? But what did those clerks do? How did they upskill themselves? I have to use
Absolutely.
that word here. And
Right.
the thing is, do we want, what has happened in my view now is the IT folks, especially what we call the software folks in the India context, we have done a lot of services, less of products. Now the landscape is slightly changing, but it takes time to get to a complete product based industry. So the services based industry, we were taking things too much for granted, right? Not
Right.
just here, anywhere where there were services in IT, it was a push job. It will fetch you so much, and you will just you don't even have to. I know so many people in my own teams who never skilled themselves. Forget reskilling and upskilling, they just went with the flow. And I think that is very dangerous, right? Today, this is
Agree.
shaken up. Now, nobody, including people who are skilling and upskilling and cross skilling, can take it easy because their jobs are, you cannot take your job for granted. So, what do you do
Absolutely.
next? Only the survival of the fittest will happen here. People who want to be in the technology field excelling will stay, the rest will just follow. That is my guess.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, we will move on. I still have a few more things to discuss before we. So I did talk a little bit about how AI is unique, right? I talked about healthcare. Now, healthcare itself, right? It's a very intriguing thing for me because it is just not what is healthcare to any one person, any of us here. If you're not in the healthcare industry, healthcare will just mean I'm going to the doctor getting treated. I'm taking my loved one to the doctor getting treated, pretty much the common man stuff, right? Or common woman stuff. But healthcare has more to it. It has multiple layers to it. And then there is life sciences, which is going to be talking a lot more about drug discovery, all the R&D that's happening there, and all the different experiments that they are doing. I don't want to go into life sciences yet, but I'll limit myself to healthcare to this topic. There are three big parts to healthcare. We do have the payer part of the healthcare. Then that is the patients, or the people who are going to help the patients get to the doctors, and then you have the insurance agents, the intermediaries, which we don't even talk about in many areas, and then you have the doctors. Now, AI is there in every segment of these three parts. Okay, in its own ways, especially in the insurance areas. It is quite vast because it is doing a lot of work in terms of the paper filing and pattern reading, and which area, which customers will come. So there's a lot of work that's going on there. The doctors part, we as a part of applied AI, we had a panel discussion a couple of months back with a couple of doctors from the US and from India here. We talked about how in different areas like policy making, like education of healthcare, like the real family physicians work, then the surgeons, how much AI is intervening in each of these. It is very interesting. You can go look that up. It was a good conversation. The point here is healthcare is a very big gamut, right? And like in banking, in the US in healthcare, a lot of work has happened already. And the medtech devices is another segment there where all the watches you wear to the x-ray machines and the MRIs that you take, there is a lot of AI already, and it's able to AI enabled diagnosis. We are able to catch more than what the human eye could probably meet. So healthcare is a segment. There is more to do, but so much has already been done. The creative field where you generate certain things, right? There again, it has taken a leap. AI has really taken a leap. And like you see, I've just taken 4 domains, but you name any domain, there is something AI in that. We can even have a debate on that, which is the field where AI hasn't come in, or why hasn't it come in? Legal is another. I think a lot of work, number of cases. There was a recent article which says some 150,000 or more cases came down drastically to 30,000. Some numbers I read. I don't recall the numbers, but it completely reduced the number of cases because it was able to quickly process. And that's exactly what we want. We want faster justice everywhere. And then finance again, there is so much in finance that has already happened. And with all the data that we've been giving all these years without realizing what is happening, the analysis is much faster and the progress is faster. So these are just across fields. Now you take any field that's there. So what can we do about it? That is the next question, right? We need to keep, of course, it's all good. Short-term benefits, all of us realize, like you said, Vasant, that yeah, you removed people, so you got more productivity, you saved your bottom line, you're able to increase your profits, you're able to show results to your shareholders. But have you thought about the right-hand side at all? If the rich gets richer, it's getting even worse with all of this AI. The rapid displacement of workers is going to give way to something like a universal basic income. And I don't think there is any regulation, there is anything that has really got created yet which we can follow. But work is happening. Social stability challenges will obviously be there. So which means it's going to get destabilized, if I can use that word, a little bit. And then the environment, that the last point is what hurts me the most, right? Of course, there is research going on as to how we can keep the compute power low and how we don't have to take so much server processing time and all of that. But the today's status is, you go to the AI, generative AI, and ask it to do some generative work for you. You've already consumed a lot of power. You all would have seen what Sam Altman was talking about. Don't use please and thank you and all of that. All of that is because every word is a token and every token gets processed. Do we know what's happening behind the scenes? And if we understood that, we will probably start limiting the use of AI, and we'll probably start structuring this much better. Right. So we need to move to, I mean, for a very long time, we've been saying this, we're not doing this, but stakeholder impact is far more important than shareholder impact. We need to start thinking about the planet. Moving on. So to your question, Vasan, what can be the possible job opportunities? My sincere feeling, or my thinking, my intuition, whatever I want to call this at this moment, right? It's not going to happen tomorrow morning. We still have time. There is runway, at least the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. As such, there is so much in Europe to do digitization as a continent, right? There's so much digitization that they're still not there. Even in the US, there is so much that is to be done. And then there are other geographies. So while digitization itself is not there, then there is so much more to be done when it comes to AI in terms of the data. I've called it cleaning here, but there is much more to cleaning. I mean, all the data scientists, and I don't want to call it data science because that's the top end of the curve. So you just take any organization and see if the data is in a format to even give it to. I mean, can we build an AI engine around that? Is this ready for the model that I'm going to adapt? The answer will be no. So I need to do some amount of work. If you've thought through your strategy, then you need to do some amount of work for a particular organization to first come up that curve and say that yes, now I'm ready. Okay, and by that time, you must have made sure your data is clean, it is protected, it's secure, there is no harm to anyone, it is sustainable, we are not going to have challenges, there is no ambiguity, it is all tested. So there is so much to be done before you say, yes, your AI is going to work. Right. And then standardization is a big chapter. I have not mentioned policy creation here. That also is a very big topic. Security is another thing. Rajendran did talk about it. And then after all this, right, do we still have AI monitoring? Is someone looking at what AI is? I'll give you an example. When I was preparing for this session, I was trying to generate some nice pictures, which I can put on the slides to just explain certain things. So I did resort to multiple AI things. And can you generate this picture for me? Surprise, surprise, none of the pictures were accurate. So I went back and asked the system. I said, "Why are you naming your spelling is so incorrect, and you're calling the sequence wrong. Your phases are wrong. You're not giving me the right SDLC steps." And guess what? It tells me that yes, I'm not there yet. So what do you do with that? Right? So unless and if I did not look that, and then I don't have any oversight, I just come and show that to you, I'm then educating the wrong way. So I chose not to even put those pictures here, right? Or I could have put it just so that you all get to see something glossy over here. But the point here is, whatever AI does, don't take it for granted. I think human intervention still goes a long way, right? What is the area which is most impacted? Routine tasks. Someone said that also, low-lying tasks, basic content generation. But I can smell it when I see such flawless mails and all of that. I know that this is not written by my team member, right? We know very well out of practice and experience what is AI and what is not now, right? And the basic front end, first level customer service jobs may go away. What may not really go away is stakeholder management, a complex judgment wherever you need to take judgment on the situation, which will be human centric, which will need to be kept in. I mean, you need to keep the geopolitical, economic factors before you take a decision. I think none of that. Management jobs to that extent will still be there. And then top of the cream technology jobs will still be there because you need, that's where I said, I think Shankar had asked about, do I need to learn Python? Now, do you want to be creating AI agents? Do you want to be creating more, AI workflows and stuff where you will be using your Hugging Face and LangChain and all of that and creating your own shop? Or maybe you want to build your own LLM, which will take a few more years. For all of this, yes, you will have to need to know the technology. But if you're just going to be using ChatGPT, you just need to learn ChatGPT. If you want to do wrapper on ChatGPT, you will still need to learn Python. You'll still need to know how do I create a wrapper. So three layers to it. One is using it as a virus, which is what I tried doing when I did the slides. The second is doing a wrapper on top of it so that you can customize it more for your needs. You need to know some technical stuff for that. The third end is I'm going to create the entire end to end. I want to learn everything. That's a third category. Of course, you will need a lot more technology for that. Right. With this, navigating our AI future, like I said, continuous learning. Thankfully, that has been my motto from day one. I would suggest and recommend to every individual who wants to be staying relevant as the days go forward. Please embrace lifelong learning. Focus on human strengths. You be part of shaping the future. You don't have to be technical only. You can, if you're a thinker, if you're a thought leader, I think your thinking for the future is very important because you're going to help me shape the future along with me. Regulations are important, policies are important. Let's have more hands there. And then finally, getting the right balance. Human wisdom always wins. Now I will open it up for questions just after reiterating what we've been through in the past hour and a half. Um, it all started from human laziness. Nothing is truly automatic. We are still in early stages of AI as an age. Current AI is narrow and task specific. Tools to AI spans thousands of years. Okay, now we can go formally to the questions. Rajendra, Shankar, I hope I answered your question. And then Vasant, I hope you got your answers too.
Didi, you posted an interesting question actually. What is the difference between automation and AI?
Mm.
Do you want to
I
answer
didn't
that or
pose,
do
I
you want
thought
us
I
to find the answer?
explained. Vasant, didn't I explain what is automation and what is AI? Automation,
She also said you need
I
to be
think,
smart to identify the difference, right? So,
yes, yes. Yes, you need to be smart to identify the difference.
so maybe
See,
I'll
if
take a
you,
stab at it, right? So, based on a use case I'm working on, right? So maybe you can
please,
definitely you'll have better things to say, right? So we have
sure.
we get a lot of support tickets in our area asking various questions and static questions, static answers, how to resolve those particular. Okay. So if you're automating those static questions answers, right? It could be just a level of automation, right? The AI agent or whatever is not thinking and responding to very dynamic scenarios, right? So certain other complex scenarios where it has to do its own thought process to get back with responses which are not in its question answer bank, right? I would think is a use case for AI. That's my take. Thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty much that in simpler terms. So if you need something to take the data and think about the data and understand the pattern and respond basically. So let's say the data goes from GD is female of this experience, this caliber, whatever. What goes from Shankar is different. If the treatment has to be different based on the data it receives and it has learned how to do it over a period of time, that is where you'll need AI. But if you wanted to do standard response, female do this response, male do this response, it does not care whether it is GD or Shankar or Vasant, then it has a very standard response. So automation is when the data is not read further and a pattern is not understood based on that. Yes, Kailash.
Although I joined late, Gayatri, but good session and whatever I could capture, I'm asking from that. So basically, you mentioned there that some things were generated and you could not post it because they were not accurate. Is there any AI tool which can recognize what is generated by AI and what is not?
Is
Okay.
there a tool to recognize whether it is AI generated or not?
I think that's an
Let
AI
me see.
question as well.
So
Just kidding, guys. Go
Saurabh,
ahead.
would you know if there's a tool to recognize what is generated by AI?
okay. Who has Kailash has asked this question. So Kailash, what
Yeah.
happens? Like, let me go back to a little bit of the history. Okay? During the session, I spoke about the journey from the 2012 to the 2017, right? Where the Alex has introduced the 7 layers of the architecture, right? Afterwards, what happens? There is a few more tools has been introduced, which is a Microsoft as well as the Google, and the Microsoft came with the one tool where the 300 layers has been captured, right? Now, what happens? The outcome of these 300 layers that the machines were able to recognize the text as well as image better than the humans. Okay, because I give the 100 images to the human, at least from 5.3% the human can still do the mistake, but remaining 94.7% human can recognize the images. But after adding this 300 image, the layers of the neurons, right, the machines, the you know the false results or the defect rate is only 3.1%. So basically the machines are in this context on in the image and the text generation is better than the human itself. So to answer your question into the very simple words, at this point of the time, if you have developed the tool to generate the text and you write as a human, right, uh, then of course the machines will be able to do the better job than the human itself in case of the text generation and even in the few of the image generation as well.
No, he's asking, can it guess if it is generated by AI?
No, this not because
So,
the
so
machines
why?
when it. Mhm.
So my question is basically, see what is happening is that there are various areas which Gayatri explained that in finance, in creative, and so many areas that AI is being in use now. When it comes to, let's say, creative writing, let's take one example. Now, in creative writing, it can be done through AI. Also, it can be done by a person creatively. No, now how to distinguish whether it is creatively designed by the creative person or creatively designed by AI?
Okay, so that's what the situation is. A machine can do the better job in that sense, and we will not able to do that. Like if your
So,
application is
so Saurabh, he's asking, when you say machine can do a better job, is there a tool that can tell whether I
no.
did this or a machine? It can't, right?
It cannot. So what happens if you're writing the text, if you're sending the prompt to that particular tool and you are saying that's just give the some kind of the output for that, in that particular case, it can definitely, distinguish there are the AI tool which can help you whether it has been written by the machine or whether it has been written by the human. But if you are sending the prompt as such that write like a human, then the output generated by that particular tool will be as such that's it will be pretended or all the characters with the human use it will be exactly as the human generated output, and in that particular case no AI tool can detect whether it's like generated by the human or whether it has been generated by the machines.
Okay,
Answer
just a
is no,
follow-up
it
question.
can't.
Yeah, it cannot. So the answer I got is that it cannot. Rather, if you try to generate human-like, then also it will be generated by AI only. So there is no way to distinguish whether it is a human-generated or AI generated as of today. That's what.
Precisely.
And the
Only into the
second thing
two.
is, yeah, and the
Only into
second
the.
question.
Okay,
Yeah,
go on.
please,
So
please,
there are
please.
the two things which we have been talking about, Kailash. That's the AI has been matured into the text generation and the image generation. So these are the only two fields. But if you talk about the other sensory things like the the generation of the audio or the hearing capacity, for that is still there as the things like we generate some kind of the video, right, audio or these things. There the distinguish. I mean, you can distinguish whether it has been generated by the human or whether it's up with the machine. Yeah, go on with the second question.
Okay,
Right,
another follow-up
tangential.
question. Just a
Yeah,
follow-up
before
question.
that,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kailash, just give me a minute. I have a tangential thought here. When we use the images from Shutterbug or wherever you take the stock images and then you try to use, if you don't give a license, there is a line on that, right? A watermark which says it is used from somewhere. So similar thing maybe should be possible, and definitely technically, Saurabh, from the port, and not the port really, but from some generation algorithm or something, there should be a possibility to see whether this is generated or created, because created one is different, right? There's a human effort. Generated one, there is a machine stamp to it, like a timestamp, there's a machine stamp to it. If there is a possibility to detect from a forensics point of view, I think Rajendra can add more to it if he's still on the call. I think there should be a possibility to finally nail it down. That's my take. Kailash, we'll do more research on this and come back.
So
Thank you.
just to add, Kailash, I'm sorry I mean, not giving you the time to ask a second question, but having said that, there's a one model which has been introduced by China, which is the Omni Human. What does that do? It with a single image, it can generate the realistic video itself, and all the frame rate and everything is as ideal as a human could be, right? So in that particular thing, there's no possibility that the human can detect. But of course, like if you try to generate the images with the unmatured model, then that point of the time, you know, we can still detect. But if advanced model, omni-human or anything else has been generated, images are generated by using those model, there's no possibility to identify whether it has been generated by the human or the machine. Yeah, just go on with your follow-up question before, I mean, you know.
Is he there or has he dropped off?
No, no. So my second question is for the futuristic mode. So can AI talk about future? Because so far we see the LLMs working on the past available data and like that. So is future prediction possible by AI?
Very interesting
Think about
question.
it like this. No, Saurabh, I'll take this as a philosophical question, okay? And then you can add your technical gyan to it. Um, so we go to an astrologer, or we go to a someone who can tell with the crystal ball what the future looks like, fortune teller, future teller, whatever we want to call that person, and they have done some amount of reading of the future with some trends again, right? So they will know who you are, they'd have read your horoscope, and with that they try to predict your future. And then they say, yeah, this will happen, you'll buy a house, you'll buy a car, you'll get married, blah 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 blah. To this extent they're able to do with what they've seen in your horoscope, which is, I think it is a lot of math, the horoscope and planetary positions and all of that. And with that, some experience and then some human foresight, they're able to tell you what the prediction looks like. Now, are we equipping a tool, an AI system, or an automated application, whatever you want to call it? Yes, you have astrology applications today. You can just go and put, because it's all keyed in, right? Patterns, all data, everything is data. Then it says, "Well, based on these patterns, this is what the outcome should be." To that extent, it should be possible. But from a, and same way, if you ask me, I can only tell you what I know. Until I've studied about AI up until maybe yesterday. So I don't know what happened this morning, right? So I can't, and then I bring my human wisdom to say this may happen in the future. Now that human wisdom part, right, that might be missing when it comes to an AI. Saurabh, you can add your
Yeah.
technical views to this.
So what happens like the question which you have asked that fall into the line of the predictive analysis, right? The predictions, what is going to happen in the future. So all the models what exists at this point of the time, right? Uh, how do they work? They analyze the data and then based on that they predict the feature. Now, if you talk about like, of course, like if we are able to grab the history of our ancestors, which is very generic, like, which everyone knows about, but if we started getting the details how our father's history, entire thing, and then the grandfather, then probably it will be able to do it. But at least like this kind of the things is still into the exploration phase. And but rest assured for the data like climate and what GD was also talking about, the climate, so forecasting social trends, for that all the application is already existing about.
So just to add on to what both of you have told, bringing movie, which I saw and I enjoyed into it, the butterfly effect. When you say math, predictive, anything predictive does involve math, but math itself is also abstract. Probability is never 100%, and hence any prediction is never 100%, even with AI. This is what I've understood. And because you brought in life sciences into it, and my line of work revolves around human behavior and psychology. Again, the diagnosis, and when you talk about life sciences and healthcare, diagnosis also is not 100% because there are overlapping symptoms for different diseases. And hence, even a doctor takes an educated guess than a normal human being who's not studied. And educated guesses need not be 100% right, because what is given as information, that is the basis, and the diagnosis and the results of the tests together helps in arriving at a diagnosis. So if the information by the patient is not 100% accurate, the diagnosis need not be 100% accurate. So this is what I've understood in my line of work and study, because recently, a year ago, I finished my counseling psychology degree as well to complete the biopsychosocial aspect of human behavior. And that is where I came across diagnosis of mental health disorders. And that gave clarity on how diagnosis miss even when healthcare providers who are educated come up with a diagnosis, but that is not the right diagnosis. So it's not a fault with the provider itself. It is multiple things coming together, maybe is not accurate enough. So predictive
Very interesting.
technology may not be 100% is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and
perfectly
all the predictability, right? Sort of to your point of predictable analysis and all of that. Again, all trends and whatever the past says, with that only it predicts the future. And then maybe when it comes to the is it the RAG? Yeah, I think with the we never use the term RAG also in this. And any AI discussion should not be complete without some of these LLMs, RAGs. You should talk about it. So the RAG part of it would be to go and also look at the rest of the market, look at rest of the data that is there other than what you have in your own systems to say, give you something more closer to reality in the prediction itself. Right, Saurav, it does not just limit with your LLMs and stuff. So there can, and if you're looking about stock market prediction, right, and you give it years of data, then there is some amount, but still it will not know your socio-economic, what is happening, geopolitical, what are the legal laws that have come by. So it cannot get all of that. So the prediction to that extent will be stunted. So I think there is a lot more to prediction. And Arti, you made a very nice point about the human inference, and then the knowledge the person has, and then with the data, and it could still be wrong. I'm calling that as a wisdom part, right? Which I don't think an AI is equipped to have today.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
and final
So
thing onto that, closing point on this particular subject, Arti, what you have said about any model you take it into the AI world at this point of the time, they never say the sure shot, you know. So basically what happens whenever you give the any kind of the input to any model, they say, I think it is human, and the possibility of the human picture is 99.9%. Okay, they will give this kind of the percentage over there. They will never say this is 100%, this is the human image, right? So this is how, like, the predictive analysis as well work. And just to complement what you have said,
Yeah, the predictive analysis uses probability, and probability is never 100%. That's
100%,
where it comes from.
Yep.
So
precisely.
And that only reminds me of the course I did in BITS probability and statistics. I don't think I fared well.
I don't think many of us did, but the concept is there.
I know, I
Good
know.
afternoon, madam. I'm Rajagopalan here.
Yes.
This is again a thought that I have now in terms of the. Obviously, I have a teen daughter, who's about 16 years of age, and our generation kind of saw through. I mean, we've been gone through our education, gone through a life, work life. We know, in the sense of more of what is reality, and the newer generation again has to be exposed to a newer reality where things like AI and other tools are all coming in place. So in a way, how does one prepare themselves to, I mean, to be vigilant in this sort of an era, which is completely, I mean, it's a sort of a churning era where newer things are coming into effect, where we are asking them to be staying still grounded. So where does that being grounded would come from when we when they, that's a bit of a challenge that I see. And how do we actually educate our children? How do we get them prepared? Is there anything actually uh, for them to, because when they are going through that experience where this becomes a sort of integrative experience of AI in their lives?
Hmm. So, Rajgopal, and a very worried parent that you are, and I think most of us are at this point, because we don't have all the answers. But I firmly believe that the human clan will figure out ways by which they have to circumvent any of these technological advancements. And what I'm dreading is more when quantum also comes into integration with AI. I think then, I mean, there's no stopping. That is the power that this can create. But my 2 cents as a parent and as a mother, who's more worried usually than the father, typically, uh, I think to let them go behind what their dreams are and let them to become excellent in that. As an example, it could be a creative field. It could be something in law or human sciences or whatever, right? Whatever interests them, ask them to become the best in that, because what will be sought after in my, again, all this foresight, what will be sought after is expertise, domain expertise. Because again, like human wisdom, domain expertise is something which keeps growing and evolving. What banking was in my father's age is not banking now, right? But banking itself as a concept still remains. So like that, in each field, whether it is insurance or healthcare or energy utilities, the core concept may still remain the same, but things have evolved over a period of time. So for them to know what that domain is all about gives them utmost strength to be the expert. If they can, have a strong hand at that. And of course, the rest of whatever AI, I think now all of us will have to put our children through ethical AI, use of ethical AI. We have to put our children through what it is to be handling AI responsibly. All of this should be part of course curriculum in schools and colleges. That's my humble opinion again. Like how we've been teaching children about good touch, bad touch, right, from very early age. We teach our children about puberty, we teach them about sex education. All of that came into the fore because we didn't want them to understand all this the wrong way or get misguided because of so much that's happening around us. And about drug abuse and all of that gets included in course curriculums today. In one sense, this is the moral science period these days. It is not what it was in our times. In moral science, we used to talk about stories and stuff. Now it is all about more practical and real stuff that is happening in the world. So along with that, an AI education of what is good, what is bad, what is ethical usage of AI, what is responsible use of AI, with that becoming a domain expert will give them a very niche place in whichever domain they pursue. Rajagopalan, I hope I answered half your worry at least.
Yeah, madam. Mine was only not specific to academic pursuits alone. My thing of in terms of determining something as like somebody earlier that conversation come up, whether it was a AI generated creative output, whether it is a real creative output that came from somebody. So in terms of where there is, I mean, where there is interaction, where people are going to interact, where there is a so in terms of more in-depth, genuine conversations or genuine interactions, whether they're happening, um, is what I'm really actually because ultimately I think as a community, if we sort of have to live together and have to have a binding, you need to have those sort of genuine conversations and genuinity in all the interactions that you have, and in a way whether those sort of conversations, when it becomes transactional or probably AI driven in certain areas, that sort of is going to have a more fundamental bearing on children. So in terms of that, are we is that because this generation would see that probably they would it's a sort of trial and error. The best of things will come out. The next generation may probably be better off, but this generation has to be prepared for that. When they see a lot of things happening which may not be genuine, but their impression, how they are going to process it, whether it is as genuine. So that is what I'm a bit
No, but,
concerned.
yeah,
So
Rajgopal, but the whole thing, right, as part of the education, if they are able to tell them that, unfortunately, we will be raising a generation that gets very skeptic about everything that's around. They
That's
can't
correct.
take it at face value, right? Unfortunately,
That's
because
correct.
there is so much that's happening, which we don't know which is cooked up, which is real. We don't know, wheat from chaff. So we will end up advising them to take everything with a pinch of salt. That's the whole thing that I'm saying about AI education, much early in the thing, so that they don't take it at face value, but go and do the research, understand by asking the experts, and then coming to a conclusion. So that is something that we will have to inculcate in them. We were all taught to trust. At least our generations were never asked to. We never asked to suspect people and their intentions, right? We start with trust. Unfortunately, they will not have to start with trust. They'll have to start with skepticism and the belief that
Absolutely.
maybe it is not true. And that's very sad.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
So
hit the nail
to
in the.
start this conversation, if I can add, um, this I did in my home with my children during COVID. The Netflix um, released Social Dilemma. That was a conversation starter for my teenagers with me and my spouse for how to deal with the news that they read, because ethical reporting is non-existent. Clickbaits, being in the content area, I know that it is a way of life now. Clickbait titles, what the title says and what the content says is completely different. Again, the pictures and content don't match. So these are all things which are very normal in these days and times. So unless they are able to read opposing views, so your feed of social media, Instagram or Facebook, it needs conscious effort for us to make sure that our feeds are not driven by AI, and we choose to read opposing points of views as well, so that we are more open to ideas. And Social Dilemma paved the way for this conversation as a parent for me to start with my children. The recent adolescence is another topic which talks about bullying, but again, with the digital and social media intervention in a teen's life, tween and teen's life. So these are all series that help us as parents to start these conversations at home. Whether the school does it or not, at home we can use them to start conversations.
Aarti madam, maybe you could have a session separately for BITSAA Chennai for the thing, because I see it as a very serious problem to be addressed as AI progresses. I think there is a generation which is coming out, and that generation has to be matured enough. Obviously, I don't know, maybe the children now are much more matured. When I was 18, 19, the children now 18, 19 are much more matured. But again, there is a level of immaturity in terms of whatever the newer stuff that is happening. No one can actually teach you other than going through the whole life. So some things are changing very rapidly, and I think the curriculum, I think the community has to slowly get this education in place.
So yeah, the children are going to developmentally age in the same way that we aged. So there is no change in that. The only change that we need to bring in is the conversations between the parents, the adults and the children, right? What
Yeah.
kind of conversations happened when we were children, and what kind of conversations need to happen today at dinner table and living rooms have to change.
Precisely.
And that is where it comes.
Precisely. So I think that our fears are our POV, our point of view. We are old school, the children are new school. And I mean, I've been hearing from my own children that, you don't know, you're old school. We know better. And that's absolutely true. When we were growing, there was no internet, there was no mobile phone, there was, the resources are limited. Today, when the children are growing, they have a lot more access to technology, and they're building. Their foundations and everything is different. So anything that today we are talking about as a fear may not be a fear for them. That they're growing. We can pass on certain do's and don'ts, but I don't think that would carry a lot of weightage, because they already have their own learning pattern, because they've been, the day they open their eyes, and today, whatever age they are, they have a pattern of learning. It's a human tendency. It's a human way of, progression. They will, get by with it. So our fears may be fine, but I don't think we should, put too much weightage to it. Let them learn on their own.
Sir, I understand that perspective. The only perspective is, even as adults, we fear like AI in terms of having ethical conversations and having genuine conversations. So there is a concept of genuinity that is coming in with the AI, which
But
was
genuinity is still a debatable point. Kailash asked a very valid question about fake. My question is, how do you define fake? So it's a perspective. It's a POV. A thing may be true for someone. A thing may be false for someone. It's again bias. It can be a point of view from a different perspective, or from a different way of looking at things. You understand? So as we're talking about text, there's no way anybody can say that it is AI generated. Why? Because it's a cognitive ability. You can never say it is from someone, it is from someone else, etc. Even look at the code that people write. You can duplicate the code, you can take certain part of the code, and so it's all debatable thing. It's a perspective. So what is genuine, even from a different angle, can always be debated. Even history is, whether it is genuine or not, it's debatable. It's just a point of view of who wrote that history. So the models that are being generated, created or being used for analysis, etc., it's on a debatable point. What you feed into it will generate the output.
And
Yes, Saurabh.
just to add what Rajendra has spoke about, see, the point is like this. What he has spoke, that's perfectly valid. The second thing is the check and balances, right? Even when we have grown up, there are like the check and balances were placed. And so as there's a lot of work is happening in this field as well, into the ethical compliance and the computer vision as well, where when you're trying to use any kind of the app, the AI based app will try to analyze what is your age, and based on that it will try to factor. But again, then there is a privacy, and every concern will be come into the consideration. But having said that, this is a still evolving phase. The weak AI, the check balances, compliances, and those kind of the application is still yet to be matured.
Absolutely. And even when GD was talking about standardization, policies, rules, and regulations, it's also a matter of compliance. Some standards may be applicable for some people, some standards may not be applicable to me, or and even standard society standards they differ from the society to society, region to region, and things of that nature. So it's all a matter of as I said, how do you define it? Like I said, genuine. How do you define genuine?
Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks for the questions and thanks GD and Saurabh for patiently answering. We're getting to the close of the session. We've shared a feedback survey link. It's just 3 questions and it wouldn't take more than a minute or two to provide us your feedback. That will help us plan for the future sessions and would also help the speakers take back and look at what is needed on their side, what could be worked upon as they deliver more of these sessions across, right? And more folks benefit from it. Thanks once again, everyone. I know it's a Saturday afternoon. Taking time out, which you would have otherwise spent with the family or at work, is truly appreciated for this education series. We're going to have more of such topics come in, and we'll have more speakers, expert speakers come in and do sessions for us. So please provide your feedback. That's very, very important. I'm going to share the QR code as well for folks who want to be able to quickly scan it on your mobile and, quickly fill it in. Thank you, GD, and thank you, Saurabh. Truly appreciate this amidst all the work that is going on. A lot of thought and a lot of work is coming. If there are more questions, if there's any more specific in-depth topics, please put that out in the feedback survey. We can always go back and request our expert speakers to do future sessions on it.
Yeah, we
Thank
could
you.
also look at doing a demo and stuff, but we didn't come planned for that. This one was the first of the many education sessions, Lata, maybe. So maybe next time when you want to have a demo or some working session, we can do that as well. And maybe go into some more depth on agentic AI and RAG and some of those concepts.
Superb. I think there'll be a lot of interest around that as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, GD and Saurabh. Thanks, everyone. Kindly take a minute to fill the survey and then drop off from the session. Thank you once again.
Thank you all so much. Thanks, Lata, for the opportunity.
Thank you,
Signing
everybody.
off.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.